Okay, so we're going to start at 7:03 just to let more people trickle in. Okay, is everyone ready to get this started? Sounds good.
Let's do it.
Okay, my name is Commissioner Salvador Sauceda Guzman. I am the Vice Chair for ANC 5D. Commissioner Sadell Moore is currently attending another meeting and she'll be joining us fairly shortly. Until then, I'll be leading the meeting today and she'll be taking the reins once she hops on. Today is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. It is 7:04. Thank you for those that are attending the meeting virtually, as we have been since the beginning of the pandemic. We have the agenda posted on our website for those that would like to see it. You can access it via the ANC 5D website. We'll like to start with this agenda, but before that, we'll begin with tonight's meeting with a roll call. So we'll be beginning the roll call. So 5D01.
Present.
5D02 is myself, and I'm present. 5D03.
Present.
5D04. 5D04.
That might be Sadell.
Is it? I thought she was 05. 5D05.
Sadell is 5D05.
Commissioner Black now? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. You're muted if you were saying present.
Okay, present.
Thank you. Commissioner Moore, again, is attending another meeting right now, and she'll be with us shortly. 5D06.
Present.
And 5D07.
Present.
So with that being said, I'd like to state that we do have a quorum tonight. We'll move forward with the adoption of the agenda. I myself would like to move that we move one item from the consent calendar to a voting item, which is the letter in support of the new NOMA Metro entrance. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Latoya Moore. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstentions? And I believe the ayes have it on that one. I wasn't counting when I said that. We will move with the agenda as amended. A copy of the prior meeting minutes are listed on the agenda. Mind you, we've been pushing back on the meeting minutes from being approved since December. So please note, we have agenda meeting minutes from December, January, and February. Any needed updates or changes to those agendas as posted? Okay, I move that we accept the prior meeting minutes as posted and read in advance of the meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Black now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. And we'll move forward and adopt those minutes. And we'll move forward to the treasurer's monthly report. Commissioner Cobb?
Thanks, Commissioner. For February, we had an opening balance of $57,094.95. We had $607.63 worth of expenses, all of which were for recurring office expenses and different supplies and things like that, which led us to a closing balance of $56,487.32.
Great. We'll move forward with our standing presentations. Our first presentation will be our public safety report. And tonight we have Lieutenant Zenobia Hikir with us today. Lieutenant, can you give the safety report?
Yes, good evening. For the last 30 days, we have some good news and some bad news. Property crime is overall down. So the stuff that affects people most often, like theft from autos, those types of things, those are down from this same time period last year. But violent crime, unfortunately, is slightly up compared to the same 30 days last year. So we've had like three additional ADWs, which are like violent assaults, and one or two additional, let me just look at this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at both screens. Give me just one moment. Okay. For violent assaults, we have actually 6 additional from last year, this same time. And then for robberies, we have 1 additional robbery. But as I said, our property crime is down. So overall, in this, in Sector 3, PSA 506 and 507, crime is down overall in general. But we do have a slight increase in crime. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had to reallocate a lot of our manpower in the 5th District, and this is going on throughout the whole Metropolitan Police Department, reallocating manpower to our Special Operations Division unit in reference to the trucker convoy that is supposed to be coming down to DC. We've been getting information and intelligence that we need to have a certain amount of officers on standby, waiting for any possible civil disturbance or these convoys to try and block the traffic or block the streets of the city. So that's been going on for about the last 2 weeks. Does anybody have any specific questions about their neighborhood or issues?
Me, Latoya Moore. My first question is, are we still in the agenda with the Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, where there's no arrest and lockups during this pandemic, since the numbers for the pandemic COVID cases have been low and we're lifting mask mandates? Are we going to lift that mandate that they'll start being arrested? I know if it wasn't murder or rape or something that was last reported in our last meeting, they weren't being arrested.
Oh, so I do not recall there not being any arrest. I do know that maybe it was maybe in late 2020 or summer 2020, there was some kind of information passing through the police department that people were under the impression that we should not make arrests for like very like what we call petty offenses, but
Mhm.
we have been making arrests and they have not stopped. I just reviewed an arrest when this meeting started at 7 o'clock. So there's been no, there's been no guidance given to the officers to not make arrests at all. I will say that we're not the citation release program has been revved up. So for example, there are some lockups where if you get arrested for them, you will have to spend the night, you will have to see a judge. And then others that are misdemeanors, if you don't have any current court cases pending, then pretrial services will let you out on citation release, which is where you'll get a date, a later date to go see a judge at a later time. But we are definitely making arrests, most certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from commissioners? Not for me, it's not really a question, more just a comment. Lieutenant, just to let MPD know, since our prior conversations of the issues that we were having with some of the construction sites that were being robbed at gunpoint, or some people being stabbed and assaulted, we have noticed that those issues have kind of dwindled down because of the police presence within Trinidad, from south to north. So we do appreciate those efforts that MPD made to lower that, to bring those bring attention to those issues as in being available to be present, and to actually helping diminish them within these construction sites. So we appreciate those efforts.
Thank you. I will say that we have made several key arrests in those cases. Most recently in Sector 3, I know officers got a call for a robbery, and there was a spree of construction robberies that happened that day. And the officers were able to apprehend the suspects, and detectives were able to tie those suspects to numerous robberies, the ones that happened that day, and probably some other robberies that have occurred. So there's been, like I said, a few key arrests that I know have really helped in reducing those numbers as well.
Lieutenant, do you know if those arrests were made while those individuals are caught in the act, or did you guys investigate and find them eventually?
No, it was actually a construction robbery spree. And so what happened was they robbed one set of construction workers, and they called 911 and gave the information for a lookout. And then they robbed another set. And this happened across several districts. It wasn't just 5D, it was like 5D, 3D. I'm not sure if 1D was involved, but at the end of the day, we had enough information from the victims that when we put the lookouts to the officers, they were able to actually catch the suspects on the scene of what was probably going to be another construction site robbery. And detectives then arrived and then tied those suspects to all the robberies. So the victims who got robbed that day, they were all able to make positive IDs. So that was really helpful. That was just one of the key arrests in those cases. There's been others too.
Great, thank you.
5th district officers made that arrest.
Good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners before we go to the public for questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
If there's things being done in a community and you make an arrest, or if the residents have an issue with it, and say for instance, if there's a robbery or an arrest and I call 5D to get information, why there's no information to be given? Or even if it's not an arrest, if there's a helicopter, if there's some kind of activity, when I call 5D, there's never any information to be given.
So I'm not sure why you wouldn't receive the assistance you need. I mean, everything we do for the most part is public information. So if there's some sort of disturbance going on in your neighborhood and you have questions, maybe I'm gonna put my email address in here. If you wouldn't mind shooting me an email, then I can make sure I give you like the number to, well, have you called the station? What numbers did you dial?
I called the non-emergency number.
So, okay, that is the Office of Unified Communications.
Mhm.
They are separate from MPD, and they're likely not going to give any information over the phone. They may not even know exactly what you're talking about. If you give them an address, they might know, but you're basically talking to like a call taker. If you want information about what's going on, like in your neighborhood, if you see a lot of police cars, or like you said, here a helicopter, you can call over to 5D and they'll get you to the watch commander, which tonight I'm the watch commander, and I'd be willing to answer any questions regarding that.
Well, there was an incident on one of our streets that there was a lot of police activity, and I did call 5D, and the answer that I received was I wasn't there, so I don't have no information.
That's unacceptable. So
no kidding.
All right. Yeah, that's unacceptable. So
Yes.
you call 5D and you want information regarding something that's happening on your street, and you get that kind of response, you need to ask for the watch commander. They're going to give you to the watch commander. They have to, whomever it is that answers the phone. So just to say, okay, well, you don't know, ask the watch commander, because what they should be doing is trying to get the information for you. But
I was hoping, but no,
Yeah.
I wasn't here last night, so I don't have any information, and I have gotten that type of response several times.
Yeah, so if it's not in real time, just to simply say, I wasn't here, so I don't know, it's still unacceptable. They should say, let me try and find out and give you a call back, or have somebody give you a call back. If it's in real time, it should be pretty easy to get the information. The people that are in the station are actually in the station. They're handling prisoners and handling customers that walk up to get police reports and things like that. So they might not know exactly what's going on the street, but you could easily just say, let me speak to the watch commander. They'll transfer you. And it's our job as the watch commander to know kind of everything that's going on the entire time we're on shift. So.
All righty. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Are there any questions from the public? Feel free to use your raise your hand function or drop a question in the chat. In the chat in the Q&A function, I'm sorry. I have one final one before I let you go, Lieutenant. Just to clarify, I recently contacted Metro Transit regarding one of our bus stops on Mount Olivet Road.
Okay.
We have a situation where we have some individuals living in the bus stop, and they're starting to bring, it's starting to get a little packed with furniture and personal items. But the issue that concerns us the most is that they're openly using a lot of drugs there. And I reached out to Transit and was told to reach out to MPD. They mentioned something about a new policy that MPD might be having to handle these kind of situations. Could we get some clarification with that, or a follow-up on how to properly approach these kind of situations with bus stops particularly?
Yeah, so obviously you all know that, there's been some issues with the homeless population in DC kind of setting up shop in various different places like Noma, bus stops. And we do have community outreach workers here in the 5th district and throughout the city who go and try and reach out to them, the homeless people, to get them whatever services or resources that they might need, and then connect them to DC. It's the department who they assist with, specifically assist with the homeless population. I'll get the name of the agency in a second. But yeah, so typically, yeah, you would call us. We'll send a community outreach worker out, and then they'll work with the other DC government agencies to try and relocate them to safe and secure housing. It's not really as easy as just like making the move. We can't really do that anymore, but if it's a bus stop, it's a touchy situation. I know you guys probably saw in the news recently that like a bulldozer was bulldozing like a homeless encampment, and somebody was in it. The city is being very careful about how they handle things, and we don't actually make them move, but we identify the issues and then connect them to the city services that can help them not become an issue in your neighborhood. So if you have those problems, you can feel free to call 911, or I put my email address in the chat. You guys can send me an email. If it's not in my sector, then I can get it to the right lieutenant or captain, and we'll send it to our community outreach workers and try and get them relocated so that they can be safe and have more sustainable housing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying that.
No problem.
Any other questions before we let the lieutenant go? Don't see anything in the Q&A. Okay,
Somebody said they don't see my email. I'm sorry.
I'll copy and paste it in.
Put it for, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lieutenant.
All right, thank you. You guys have a great night, okay? Bye-bye.
Okay, just updating this, I'm sorry. I lost the function. Oh, here we go. So our next part of standing presentations is the Ward 5 Council Member's Office. I believe we have Miss Kelley Cislo on the line.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm Kelley Cislo. I'm the Ward 5 Constituent Services Director for Councilmember McDuffie. I'll include in my in the chat here my contact information. So we assigned Silas Grant to a different meeting on this night. So Doni Crawford in our office will be joining on a regular basis going forward, and I've shared her email address with Commissioner Moore. But just a couple of updates here, and I'll put this information in the chat as well. We just released our fiscal year 23 Ward 5 priorities budget letter to the mayor. And that was sent out to all the ANC and civic leads, so you guys can push it down to all the residents. The mayor's budget comes out on March 16th, and then there's some negotiation going back and forth on that. We also have budget oversight hearings going on, and so I'll put the link for the budget oversight hearings in the chat as well. And we highly encourage folks to sign up to testify if you have any feedback of what works, what doesn't, and what needs improvement with the various agencies. And then also, we know many people are still struggling to pay rent or mortgages. So if you have back due funds due from Stay DC or unemployment, you can escalate those to our office as well. And I'm happy to take any issues before I put all the stuff in the chat here for you guys.
Thank you, Kelley. Are there any questions from the commissioners? No questions from the commissioners. Are there any questions from the public today? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mrs. Cislo. We appreciate your presence today.
You're welcome. And I'll be putting the stuff in the chat here for you guys.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. And as we move on with the agenda, we have the Executive Office of the Mayor. I think we have Nokomis Hunter available today.
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me if my voice sounds like it's been lost. I kind of lost my voice today. Again, my name is Nokomis Hunter. I'm the Ward 5 liaison from the mayor's office. And I would like to, first begin giving you guys an update, which some of you all may already know about the math being dialed back, which had begun on March the 1st, the beginning of this month. So there's entities where you no longer required to wear a mask. That in regards to restaurants and bars, sports and entertainment venues, gyms, recreation centers, and indoor athletic facilities, house of worship businesses, grocery stores, and pharmacy, retail establishment, DC government office, in areas with no public interaction. And there will still be masks required at any private businesses that want to require the use of masks by its employees or customers. Also, school, childcare facilities, and libraries, congregate facilities, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, shelters, dorms, correctional facility, healthcare, medical facility, public transit, taxi, and rideshare vehicle. And last but not least, DC government facility that has direct interaction with the between the employees and the public. Also, for March 1st, DPW will begin their has begun their street cleaning services. They are asking. I'm sorry. Y'all give me a second.
Are you able to pin the ASL interpreter?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I was asking the host if they're able to pin Spotlight the ASL interpreter. It's not visible on the YouTube link. Thank you.
Yeah, so DPW will begin their street cleaning between March the 1st and October 31st. So it will operate along residential streets, but it's not posted. They are asking residents to be aware of their schedule that their street are being clean. Any violation, there would be a $45 ticket being offered. And that would be all that I would like to inform you as you guys. Just want to open the floor for any questions or concerns that you guys may have.
Thank you, Nokomis. Can you remind the public when, until when are they giving out warning tickets? I believe they're doing that first before they give out the actual fines.
Yes. I believe that they will be. I'm sorry, my voice. I cannot be. They will start their warning. March the well, they already begin their warning. I think March the 15th.
Until March the 15th.
Yeah.
Got it. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Are there any questions from the public today? Don't see anything in the Q&A. Any hands raised?
And before I go, there was a fire. There was a recent fire on my office. That's where I'm at now. Just wanted to give you a heads. I was going to give you send you an email, but there's no injury or displacement or anything.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. If you can follow with me on email, but also via text, I'll be there shortly after this meeting. Not shortly, I'll be there after the meeting.
There's no one on the scene.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. So we'll go ahead and move forward to commission actions. And this is where I'll pass the reign to Commissioner Sadell Moore, who's joined us now.
Hello, and thank you so much for doing such a great job to our vice chair. We're double booked at this point for a lot of meetings, so I appreciate you being able to do that. Next up on our agenda, of course, are the commission actions. So we have a couple of standing presentations. We don't have the budget information this month. We'll have that next month. So that does alleviate some of the strain on our agenda and will help keep us on schedule. But we do have with us this month Director Peter Alvarado, who is the director in charge of sports betting. So we're very grateful to have him this month. I think maybe 2 to 3 months ago, we had a sports betting case come up, which is our second case. Since the original law was passed, we just had some updates even since then. And I think a lot of the information that the public took away from that meeting was just incorrect. And so I wanted to bring Director Alvarado in so that he could really kind of correct the record in terms of how cash works and tell us how the process works and where things stand in terms of regulation, and just really kind of hear directly from the source. And he can make sure that, we on the commission as well as in the community know what's going on. So with that said, I'll let Director Alvarado take over, and we just really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. I appreciate it. Thank you for the invitation to be with the ANC today, this evening. I wanted to see if I could possibly, because I do have a visual presentation. It's short, it's very short, but I wanted to see if I can share it. So I'm gonna.
Oh, definitely.
I'm not an expert at this, so bear with me. I'm gonna try.
So Bosco, if you could give Director Alvarado permissions as a co-host so that he can share his screen. And you should see a pop-up in just a second saying that your permissions have changed.
I don't see anything yet. I do. Let's see.
Okay, so you should have permissions, and then you'll be able to use that button share screen at the bottom to share. Yep.
Okay. All right. So hopefully you see a screen that says what types of sports wagering licenses are available. Is that it?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, good. In the right place then. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but just the ones that are, I think, most relevant to the ANC. We licensed two different types of sports wagering in the district. Okay, one is we license the private operators, your Caesars Palace, your MGM. Those are private operators that we license in the city. And those are the ones that you see up on the screen that say Class A operator, Class B operator. We also, as a district, we also operate our own sports wagering book. And that's called, at the bottom, I highlighted it, Gambit DC Retail Establishment. So I think and they're very distinct. They're very distinct. So I realized that sometimes there's confusion about the two. That's why I'm highlighting them both, the Class B operator and the Gambit DC, because those are the ones I'm going to be addressing. Because the Class A's, those are the major stadiums, Nats Park, Audi Field, Capital One Arena. But Class B is the ones, are the sports betting operations that are located in bars and restaurants just scattered throughout the city. That can be, and the same thing with Gambit DC. The difference, of course, is one is privately operated. Gambit DC is operated by the lottery. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the distinctions of the two and let you know the processes by which we license them, because I think it's important for the ANC to know that and how they operate. So first off, on the private operator ones, and I should say that right now, currently, there is only one private operator in the district, and that's Grand Central, which is located over in the Adams Morgan area. I think it's on 18th Street. So let me first show you here the licensing fee, so because you'll get an idea of the distinction here. So you'll see their Class B operator, it's $100,000 fee, and that's an application fee. That's not a license fee. Means that if in order for us to review your application, you have to pay us $100,000, and we may say yes, we may say no, and we have said no, and it's non-refundable. So it's a big investment if somebody wants to do a Class B operator. And to be frank, the initial startup class for a Class B operator at a bar or restaurant is probably really twice that amount. It's the $100,000 plus everything they have to do in terms of all the requirements they have to meet on our end to get that thing up and running, and what they have to meet on our end, plus reserves and bonds and everything, that it really runs them, I think, closer to about 200,000 just to open up the door that first day to start taking bets. And it's good for 5 years, okay? There's some other licenses in there, but we don't need to get into those. So let's go over to what the Class B requirements are. And I think this is something that is of interest to the ANCs. Of course, the requirements are that obviously you have to be a minimum in the district of 18 and over, which is really the lowest of any age in any jurisdiction that I'm aware of. Most of them are 21. To legally bet, you have to be 21, but here in the district, it's 18. We do an extensive background investigation on anybody who's applying. The applicant, the bar, the owners of the bar, the major investors, who if they have investors, individuals who own 5% or more, the key employees, the directors, the managers. So we do extensive background investigation on all of them before to find if they're suitable, if there's anything in their background that would give us concern from an integrity standpoint or anything. But here's the other operations review that we do is we require that they have an underage program, a prevention program, of course, measures to make sure that no one under the age of 18 is gambling. We require that they have an anti-money laundering program. That's extremely important. It's to make sure that nobody is laundering illicit money through that establishment, through that sports wagering complex. That's very important. There's requirements, reporting requirements on potential suspicious activity. And so, and they have to have in internal controls to prevent somebody from money laundering, to guard against it, I should say. So that's, we have to be satisfied that they have such a program before we let them license them. We look at their surveillance and security program. And so there, what we're looking at, I'll take security first. We take a look at where they're located, right? What's the risk there that's posed to the neighborhood? We know that there's cash going to be coming in. We have discussions with MPD, and then we want to make sure that they have a sufficient or a strong enough security program to address any potential risk that may be raised by there. And it's something that it's just not that we take into consideration at the time that we license them, but it's we take a look at it a month after we license them, 2 months after, 3 months. We see, is there changes? And there have been times when 60, 90 days out from the initial licensing, we come back to them and say, you know what, you're going to have to beef up your security because we're seeing issues. We've talked to MPD. And so it is a constant sort of moving target to make sure that if gambling or if sports betting is licensed there, that it's licensed in a safe manner. Surveillance, it's related to security, but it's a little different. There is a requirement that they have, we see that they have cameras up, that they're taking surveillance footage, that they're looking at what's happening at the sports betting windows or at the machines, the betting machines, to make sure that they're identifying potential suspicious activity, that we're not seeing illicit activity occurring inside the sports book. There are federal reporting requirements to the federal government, to us, the OLG, if that's going on. But these are two separate programs that they have to have strong programs on. And then, of course, we do our own spot inspections, announced and unannounced, to make sure. And then, of course, they have to have a responsible gambling program. So they have to make sure that they provide resources to people who, unfortunately, gambling does. Sometimes we do have folks that have addiction issues with gambling. And so they have to have a responsible gambling program to be able to provide players, if they ask for it or if they see it, to provide them resources on where they can seek help if they're experiencing problem gambling. So these are a lot of the things that go into licensing a private operator for sports betting, that Class B category I talked about. There's also, I won't go into these, but there's a bunch of other things we do in terms of making sure they have operational. We test their lab equipment, their sports betting platform system, make sure that it's working properly. So we have it lab tested. They have to provide us reserve requirements, tax bonds, and everything. So there's quite a bit that goes into before we, and so the process, frankly, it takes somewhere around 9 to 12 months to get licensed. So it's not a quick process. And along with that, if the establishment, of course, is a bar or restaurant that has alcohol sales, they have to get an endorsement from ABRA. And of course, when that happens, that triggers the meeting usually with the ANC, because the ANC gets involved in if somebody is going to change their license and putting a sports betting business into an existing bar or restaurant is a significant change that requires an ABRA endorsement. And of course, that's where the ANC gets their voice to announce, to talk about it. The next one I'm going to go over is the Gambit DC retail license and fee. Now, again, this one, this sports book, Gambit DC, is run by the DC Lottery. It's ours. It's not privately owned. It's government owned. And so what we do here is we, much like the way the lottery is, we have sales agents. Just like we have sales agents that sell lottery tickets for us, we have sales agents that take in bets for us using the self-betting machines. Right now, it's only machines that go into place. It's a little different. Here, the application fee is $5,000, so it's a lower cost. It's a 2-year term. The establishments, whether it's a 7-Eleven, whether it's a bar or restaurant, you could see there, they get 5% commission on all the sales they make, all the betting activity, basically. And then they get a 1% on the cash payout. So they are limited to 5 machines. There was a maximum of 600 that was recently raised to 1,000. And then you still have the age limit of it has to be 18 or more. So this operation here is overseen by the lottery as well, because again, these retailers out there are working for the lottery, just like much the same as lottery ticket sales. So where are they located? Here's up here at the top row is the wards, and down here where it says traditional with sports betting, those are the sports betting locations. So here in Ward 5, there's 6 of them, in Ward 5, there's 41 throughout the city. But there's 6 of them that have been approved for and operating in Ward 5. So this just gives you an idea. The other things that are up here, traditional only means lottery. And so, we have 334 lottery outlets throughout the city. And those are the different wards where they're located. So for Ward 5, there's 64 lottery win, and then 6 of them have also sports betting. Okay. So that just gives you a little bit of an overview. I'll stop sharing there. I'll just leave that up if anybody has any questions about that. So I guess my point is, for sports betting, anybody who wants to do sports betting in the district, the private operator, it is costly, and which is probably why we've opened up the application portal over 2 years ago, and we only have 1 Class B that's operating in the district. We have 1 more that's in process right now, that's going through the approval process, but I think it's costly. And so a lot, that's why we have 41 of the Gambit retail, because at 5,000, it's much more sort of affordable. And that's why we have more of this. But none of these on the Gambit DC side have any live windows, betting windows. So they're all only done through machines, and they have limits, just like the $1,000 limits. So and that's important to realize, the risk on the Gambit DC retailers is somewhat lower, because it's only $1,000 it's the maximum that can be bet. And I think the average bet is somewhere around, in the low 100 or 200 range, I think, even lower than that. But with the Class Bs, there is no limit. So literally, you can have some in the Class Bs that have betting windows. You could have somebody walk in and place a $10,000 cash wager at a betting window. So the risk with the Class Bs is a little higher, and so they go through a greater amount of scrutiny in the vetting process. Okay, so I hope that gives you a little bit of idea of some of the distinctions between the both. If you want the locations of the 6 that are located in Ward 5, I can get that for you and send it to you. It's public information. And with that, if you have any questions.
Well, thank you for that. So I'll just start out with a few questions that I know exist. just from our previous public discussions on this topic. And I think one of the primary things that came up for us, which you just kind of gave an overview of, is that cash, whether or not cash exchanges hands, when you are using electronic machines in a bar and restaurant setting. And my understanding from previous conversations from you is that, yes, it does, but there's a limit. So if you could talk about how exactly that works, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. Let's go over the Gambit DC one, because that, again, the smaller risk. So this is cash. This is how cash gets exchanged there. So let's say I come in and I put $500 into the machine, right? So I have live cash and I'm feeding that into the machine and I make my bets and I win. And let's say I win $550. That's my winning ticket. I can go up to the retailer right there, wherever I may be in a bar. I could be at, I think Ben's Chili Bowl that has these, and I can give them the ticket and they will give me cash, $550. If the ticket, on the other hand, was over 600, they can't do anything. They have to send me to the lottery's headquarters over in Anacostia area, and I have to go there just like I would do it if I had a lottery ticket. I'd have a large lottery ticket, and I have to go there and get paid the winning ticket. And at our office, we don't give cash. We only give people a check. So if you came in with let's say you came in with a winning ticket, a winning sports wagering ticket for $1,200, all we could do is write you a check. And that's what we do. Just like if you came in to win your lottery ticket, we write you a check and we ask for your driver's license, social security card, and verify your ID, and then we give you a check. Okay. A little different though on the Class Bs. On the Class Bs, let's say I put down that $10,000 bet I accept. So I came in with $10,000 in cash and I pushed it across the window and said, I want to bet 10,000 on, I'm just making this up, on the, oh God, who won the, I'm trying to think of the Super Bowl. Oh, the LA Rams, of course. And I win, and I win 20,000. The Class B, they're going to pay me. They're going to push over $20,000 to me. And so I came in with 10. I'm leaving with 20,000 in cash. They may ask me if I want to check. I could say yes. I could say no. But it's a little bit more flexible. So the private operators, they can set some of their own rules on that. We just oversee it and see what rules are they doing and what rules do they have in terms of cash transactions. And they do have to have when you start hitting the $10,000 range, there are federal government cash reporting that they're subject to. So they do have to keep track of how much cash they're giving you, how much cash they're taking you, in the same way that if you walked into a bank and you try to make a $10,000 cash deposit, the bank's going to ask you for your driver's license and social security number. The Class B sportbook has to do the same.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then I know that we're also undergoing some development in terms of the regulations, for how the licenses are issued and how reviews are conducted. I think the last time we spoke, probably a few months back, it was we were looking at 18 months. But can you talk about the status of developing the entire regulatory framework to support this?
Well, I could tell you that last week we had our performance meeting with the committee chaired by Councilman McDuffie, and we promised them that by the end of the year we would issue proposed regulations, update regulations, and those would be issued for public comment. So we're still on track. We told them by the end of the year we would send those out, and they'll cover things like just some technical changes that we're planning on, but it also opens the door for any comments regarding anything you want to see in there. And so it's not like when we issue those, it's not like you're limited to, oh, these are the changes we're making, and do you have any comment? we will get comments back about stuff that's not even in there, that we didn't propose changes. They're just the public or anybody is saying that, well, we think you should change this in your regulations. And so those, we'll send those out, like I said, later in the year.
Okay, all right. And then just a comment from me before we move to questions from the commissioners, and then from the public. So if you're a member of the public, if you could type your question in the Q&A box rather than the chat, or if you'd like to use the raise hand feature and you're on the phone, you can dial *9, and we'll go through the queue. I think the primary comment for me is just making sure that we're defining what it means when there's a change of significance to a license, so that that's clearly defined when notice needs to be issued to ANCs. And I know we had some discussion about that. And then a challenge process similar to what ABRA has for alcohol licenses. That way it separates the issue of, alcohol licensing issues from any issues that might be tied to sports betting. And you're not having to challenge an establishment's alcohol license in order to resolve any issues that the community might have in regards to sports wagering, so that it's separated.
No, I understand. And that's something that can be submitted, that we, as a suggestion, that we establish a procedure separate from the ABRA procedure, because we recognize that there's also the possibility that the issue when it comes to ABRA, it could be that a business, a non-alcoholic business, a coffee shop, wants to put a sports book into the coffee shop. It wouldn't require an ABRA endorsement, and then if it doesn't require an ABRA endorsement, the ANC is sort of not notified. And so you can suggest that we, the Office of Lottery and Gaming, establish a procedure by which we notify directly to the ANC if there's a change in a business. That's going to be a change, being that they're going to put they've applied for a sports license.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you sharing that. That's a great example, because that was really part of our discussion a few months ago, is that we were kind of expanding the remit of ABRA in our discussions beyond what ABRA is really able to do. And we don't, the law doesn't say that, and we don't have the legal authority as ANCs to just decide to do that. So I really appreciate that example. Commissioners, if we have any questions from you all, and just kind of jump in if you have a question. I know Commissioner Rhodes, you have a current application in your area. So if you have anything you'd like to add, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Director Alvarado, for your presentation. The only thing I want to ask is, once you all get the process going and send it off to Councilmember McDuffie, as far as any other requirements, would that come from the ANCs? Would it come from the council members, or would it come from the public? As far as like security, extra security, where exactly would the sports betting machines be allowed to be, such as a lounge versus a corner store or a restaurant?
Yeah, well, we carefully go over there. They have to submit a plan to us, a plan of where they're going to put the machines. And so we carefully go through that, and we take a look at things like, is it located inside? Is it located, where is it located exactly in the location? What is the camera coverage on it, and stuff, and to make sure that there's always camera coverage on the thing. And many times the machines themselves, kind of like an ATM machine, can take a picture of the person using the machine while they're using it, and so we have that. So we go over that carefully, and then on the security, and we take a look at, the neighborhood, is it the density of the neighborhood, what is, and so we do consult with MPD on it. And we talk to MPD, and many times we also consult with ABRA as well, since they have a liquor license, they've already been, and ABRA will tell us what issues they faced in this location historically, and so So that's how we decide. And then we not, at the end of the day, when we decide, okay, this is the sufficient security that you have for this location and that's acceptable to us right now, we don't just rely on that. We usually do a reassessment within 60 days and see, what is it really working? I mean, hopefully during those 60 days, we don't get any complaints, but we do. And then we do, to be frank, and straight with you, is that, on some of the other locations, we have gotten complaints from MPD and stuff. And so, or just notices of incidents that have occurred. And so we've gone back to the licensee, because we do hold their license, right? And told them, well, looks like you have to do X, Y, and Z to really beef up the security here. And since we hold their license, they're usually pretty cooperative. And most of the time, actually, to be honest with them, is that they notify us of the incident before MPD calls us.
That's good. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners before we move to the public? All right, nothing from the commissioners. All right, let's go to questions from the public. I'll go through the written questions and then we'll check to see if we have anyone with a hand raised. Kevin Horgan says, the review process for the DC lottery seems to focus almost exclusively on technical and programmatic concerns, e.g., are they functioning properly? Are they not serving as money launderers? Does your review process include any assessment on community impact? Do you monitor any trend, whether or not more families need social services after a new betting establishment is given a license?
As to the latter part of that question, on assessing, the needs of the community, that we don't do that. I mean, our function is to raise revenue for the district, and what we raise in terms of our profit and everything, that all just goes into the general fund. We transfer it over. To give you an example of the Gambit DC machines, for the sort of we run on fiscal years, so it's October 1st through the end of January. During that period, I think it was almost $1 million we transferred over to the district, and just on the profit from the sports wagering, just on the one that the Gambit DC we run, and then from private operators, they pay a tax. And so I forgot theirs was, I think their 10% tax was over $600,000 that they paid over to the district. But once we paid over, that's just, it's not one of our functions to decide, where the money should go and what are the needs of the community. That's something that, others much more competent than the Office of Lottery and Gaming that should decide.
All right, thank you for that. Desiree says, does any of the funding from the gaming go into the neighborhood in which they are approved to run the commercial bidding? So does that money go directly to the communities where the establishments are located?
Yeah. As far as I know, it just goes to the general fund. We've been asked that before, and once we deliver it to the general fund out of our fund, we don't know where it goes to the general fund, and not we don't have any control over that. I would say that the only thing we do know is that I think for the first 2 or 3 years, the first $200,000 that we made goes to the Department of Behavioral Health, and it goes to the Department of Behavioral Health to fund programs on problem gambling, to provide resources, counseling, therapy, and everything for folks, district residents that are experiencing problem gambling. And so that money is earmarked, the first $200,000, I think it was for the first 3 years, that was earmarked to the Department of Behavioral Health.
Mm-hmm. And do you know if that earmark plan is going to continue? I mean, $200,000 seems like kind of a limited staff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at the site whether that was extended, because I know the Department of Behavioral Health has been working on a program, a district-wide program.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I don't see any hands raised. from anyone else. So I will thank you so much for your time, Director Alvarado. I really appreciate that thorough explanation. And I think we got some much needed information for us as a community, because we were kind of headed in the wrong way with some info. So I really appreciate you clearing that up.
All right. It sounds good. Appreciate it. And anytime you need anything, just feel free to send me an email. And I have, I think, one action item. I'll get you that list of the 6 retailers located in Ward 5.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, have a good evening.
Thanks, you as well. So next up, we'll move to our consent calendar. And just a reminder to everyone how the consent calendar works is that, we list some items that we believe to be non-controversial. Any one commissioner can object to a consent calendar item, and it is off of the consent calendar. It's my understanding from the beginning of the meeting that the NOMA bid letter was moved off of the consent calendar to the voting actions. And Vice Chair Salcedo Guzman, if you could just confirm that I'm correct on that.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so with that change, I move to accept the consent calendar as printed on the agenda with the removal of the NOMA bid letter to be included under regular voting action so that we can have additional discussion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, and I heard Commissioner Cobb first. So second from Commissioner Cobb. All in favor of the consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you so much. Now let's go ahead and move forward to requested presentations. I believe we have Eric Teran with us tonight to give a presentation first on 1146 16th Street Northeast. And then he'll follow up on a presentation he gave last month for 801 20th Street Northeast. And that will begin our voting actions for the evening. So Mr. Teran, do you need to share your screen with us regarding the project at 16th Street?
Okay.
Okay, you should have co-host abilities. So just share your screen and get started whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah, just give me 1 second just to open up the files.
Sure.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I met with the zoning committee, I think it was 3 weeks ago. The original idea was to extend 20 feet past, excuse me, the adjacent neighbor, or 30 feet actually. I believe Commissioner Moore and Guzman were there, and the feeling was definitely that it was too much. So I'm back with a redesign, and now it's only going the 10 allowed feet by right, and then an additional 11 feet. So we have shortened it by about 9 feet 10 inches. This property is at 1146 16th Street, and here's a site plan. It's right here on the corner of 16th and Meigs. And here you can see the 4 existing row houses that are more or less the same size. And then back here, they get a little bit bigger. And then across the street on the other 3, across the alley and across the street, the massing is similar or closer to what I'm proposing. As you see here, you've got your 10 feet by right. Then we're proposing another almost 5 feet, 4 foot 11 and a half. And then we're creating a dog leg and then going back another 6 foot 3. The idea, well, right now it's a single family house, 2 stories. And the idea is to create 2 units. Unit A would be on the first floor and the basement. So this is the basement up here with 3 bedrooms. And then on the first floor for unit A would be, the open living concept with another bedroom in the back. And then we go to the second and third floor. You have the second unit, which is basically the same layout with an open floor concept and a bedroom in the back. And then you get to the third floor and you'd have 4 bedrooms. So unit B would be 5 bedrooms total and unit A would be 4 bedrooms total. And then here you can see again a little bit more the dimensions. This is the edge of the adjacent residence or the existing house. Go back to 10 feet by right, and then we're asking for that additional 11 foot 2.5, which 6 foot 3 of it is in a dog leg. So I'll show you an elevation. So this is the existing residence, and we're basically coming back over here. As you can see, we're not close to the allowed height with a parapet. That's that's the dash line that you can see. So by right, we could go that high, but instead we've decided to have the roof much lower. We are proposing a roof deck with a parapet, but we're still about 4.5 feet below what's allowed. And to lessen the effect of the massing, we've cut the parapet back so that this is just a regular roof. It will have hopefully some solar panels back here. But the idea is, definitely that this doesn't feel like a 39-foot wall, which it could be. We're cutting it down, and it's only 30 foot 3. So I'll go to the 3D images, which I think will tell a better story of what we're proposing. So this would be on the corner. We have you can't really see the basement at all. There's a egress window here that you can't see, and then there's 2 in the back for the bedrooms. But that first floor is the part of the lower unit, and you've got the 2 upper floors. And we go to the other side, you can see the difference right here of the height, where we still are about at least 4.5 feet below what we could be. And these windows and openings are the existing openings. So trying to keep, the same scale as neighbors with the windows. If I go back to the other one, you kind of see continuing that in that line, that horizontal plane. And we go back, which I think is probably the most important image, because this is what we're asking for. We are pushing back that extra 15 feet along, or extra 5 feet from the 10 foot by right. And then we're getting that dog leg. Luckily, the property is on the north side, so we aren't creating any shadows or anything to any of these houses right here. And we do have a shadow study, and really the only thing that creates is a little bit more of a shadow onto the street in some parts of the year. And going back to the last image, we have this as well, where you can see where we're cutting the parapet so that it isn't so tall in this facing the adjacent neighbors to the south. So we have cut it back 10 feet from what was originally proposed, or 9 feet 10 inches. So hoping that it falls in a little bit more with the character, of what the neighborhood is. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, we'll begin with questions from the commissioners. I don't have any questions, but if the commissioners do, we can go ahead and start there. Commissioners, any questions from you? And then we'll move to questions from the public.
I don't have a question following up from our last conversations at the zoning meeting, but I would like to see if some of the residents that live on the block that are attending the meeting right now, see if they have some questions. So I'll pass the time to them if they're available.
Okay.
I also plan, just jump in real quick, to start meeting some neighbors hopefully this weekend and next weekend, and presenting the plans and what we have planned.
To confirm, you haven't met with any of them so far?
Not yet.
Okay, and then just a reminder to neighbors, please use the Q&A rather than the chat to type any questions. And if you are on the phone line, you can use dial *9 to raise your hand, and we'll be able to see you. If you are on the Zoom call, you can just press raise hand either at the bottom or top of your screen, and then we'll come through to participants and allow you to speak. First up in our Q&A box, Molly Ward says, does the property owner plan to live in this building?
No, right now we plan to hold it long term. It is an investment property. So we do plan to rent both of them. We do have 2 sons. The plan is if one day they want to move in there, that could be for them. But as of right now, we don't plan on living there. It'd be for rental units.
Okay. And then Commissioner Hoffman, I do see your hand raised. I didn't mean to skip you during commissioner questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a question about, I'm trying to look through the plans and listen to you talk and get updated on the new plans here. These are both family size units, is that correct? How many bedrooms?
Family? Yeah, the lower is 4 bedrooms, 3 on the basement and 1 on the first floor, which could be served as an office. And the upper unit has the same layout, just reversed, where the second floor has got 1 bedroom or office, and the upper floor has 4 bedrooms.
Okay. So I think also it's important to note, you said you have not spoken to anyone on the block, abutting neighbors on the street, for their opinion or thoughts or feelings.
Not yet. We went there last weekend and we cleaned up the yard and part of the inside. Just, there's a lot of trash left there. So we were cleaning that up, make it at least look respectable. So yeah, the plan is to start meeting neighbors as we keep moving through this month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, and I don't see any additional questions from members of the public. So I'll thank you for that presentation on 1146. And then if we could move forward to the 20th Street presentation, which sure. Just a reminder to folks following along at home, is now a voting action and not just a requested presentation. So we have seen this before, and we will be taking action on this recommendation tonight. Okay, so Mr. Teran, go ahead.
Okay, just give me 1 second, open up both files. Okay, we'll start with the plans real quick. Let's see. So this is a property here, 801 20th Street. We are proposing to bump the back an extra 7 feet from what's allowed by right. We've also submitted this to DCRA at the same time, and we are getting everything else approved by right. And I finally was able, Commissioner Moore, to speak to Mr. LeGrant, and I'll get to that roof feature as we're going along. This also is this is a 3-unit building. It's an R4. The idea is that the basement will be 1 unit. The first floor is a living space for unit A, and it has 2 bedrooms for unit B as well. And then when you go up to the second floor, it's all unit B, which has a living space and an additional 2 bedrooms. So unit A and unit B are both 4 bedrooms. And then you get to the third floor and it's a 2-bedroom unit, which also has access to the roof, to a roof deck. They are both, well, let's see, let me go back 1 slide. So here you go. So this is the edge of the existing adjacent neighbor. We're proposing to go, it's actually 17 feet with this 1 foot bump out. And the 10 feet's by right, and we're asking to go an extra 7 feet. And we also have proposed 2 parking spaces as well. Now, the big difference over here is this area over here that was above the stairs. We were trying to classify it as a dormer. After speaking to the head of zoning, Mr. LeGrant, the dormer does have to have a window, or else they were classifying it as a penthouse. You are allowed penthouses up to 30 square feet, but they do require a special exception from BZA. We don't want to do anything else other than these 7'10" that we're asking from the back. So we have come and lowered this down, provided a roof hatch to get to the roof deck. The top of the roof here is at the height limit at 40 feet. And then we have a small 1 foot parapet. And you'll be able to see that a little bit better when you look at the 3D renderings. The rest of the house is, we do have a gable. The height there is taken from the midpoint, and that's at 39'8" is the midpoint. And we played with the gable and the flat. So it's not so massive as we all see these 3-4 story buildings, neighborhoods, and they're basically just huge rectangles with 4 foot parapets. So we were hoping, and I think it accomplishes it. It doesn't look as big. We still do have a roof deck on, let's see, on the 20th Street, which will go to this viewing angle. This would be the roof deck over here. However, this is not, we're still about 8 feet. I might check before I misspeak. We're at the top of the parapets at about 39 feet, and we could go up to 44 feet with the parapet. So we are 5 feet lower. And once again, that we're trying to do this because we didn't want it to feel so massive for the neighborhood. And then if we go to the images, the 3D images, this is the corner of 20th and 8th Street. And we're playing with the massing. So once again, it doesn't look just like one big rectangle. Try and break it up. And then we go, we should start here. Here is a big difference. If we looked at what I presented last month, this sticking up here, this penthouse, which is much larger. And you'll notice it more when we get to the other side of the alley view. So just trying to break that up so it doesn't feel so big. Going along the main elevation, once again, just playing with the materials, breaking it up, not making it so rectangular and up and down, helping a little bit with the shadows. And this is the view with the alley side as well. Once again, adding a little bit of relief, some architectural details, so it's just not flat rectangles, which seems like almost every developer likes to do. This is the big one, I think. This red line here is 10 feet past the neighbor. So we are asking for the 7'10" addition. And this is the big area where we were talking about the last meeting, where we have lowered it because it can't be classified as a dormer. Because it's on the property line, we can't put a window, or else it'd have to be 3 feet unset from the property line. And this was just the better way to go in regards to the floor plan and the layout. So we think this helps with the massing as well, and casting any shadows to the adjacent houses. And I think that's about it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure. So I really have a few questions. This is in my single member district. One, if the BZA does not approve the extension, is the plan to just kind of continue to use the same layout and design, but just, recede by about 7 feet? Is that the plan?
It's kind of up in the air because 7 feet does take away a lot of space. The open space living room would have to move. The bedrooms would become much smaller. Most likely, right now they're nice sized bedrooms. They're not your 7 foot by 10 foot just to meet the minimum. These are nicer sizes. I think this is the smallest one, which is about, I want to say 9 by 10. So it would change the plans a lot to move all this 7 feet. A foot or two, I think you can still make it work. But 7 feet is pretty drastic. Honestly, I don't know what the plan would be. We'd have to look at this all over again. At the very beginning, we did look at an option of going that full 40 feet, somehow making the mezzanine. But it seemed like it was very tight. The layout just didn't work out as good. The bedrooms weren't as nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then my second question is whether or not you had spoken with Ms. Hill, who is the adjoining neighbor. I know we had some discussion because originally the plans didn't show the shared chimney between 801 and 803. And so I wanted to know, A, if those updates had been made to the plan, and B, if you had spoken to Ms. Hill in regards to that chimney.
Yeah, so the plans have been updated. The DCRA plans, we haven't resubmitted. They provide comments about 2-3 weeks ago. And we were really waiting to speak to Mr. LeGrant about that penthouse issue before we sent any updated plans back to DCRA or to the ANC or to the neighbor. And so I know the owner reached out, I think it was a few days ago. I don't think he's heard anything back from her. I know we just wanted final confirmation also from the chimney, if it's working, if it's gas or if it's wood, just so we know exactly what it would entail to get that to get a permit approved for that extension.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a DCRA thing that we are keeping track of.
Okay, well, very good. I'll move to questions from any of the other commissioners, followed by questions from members of the public. Just a reminder, if you could type questions in the Q&A box or use the raise hand feature. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9 in order to raise your hand. And again, that's *9. So we'll go to Commissioner Hoffman for the first question from commissioners.
I guess not so much a question, but I see that I believe this is in a voting action for us, and don't have confirmation from budding neighbor with the chimney. And 2 days ago, there were updated plans put in the case file. So I'm not sure that, in my opinion, this is quite ready for a vote. That's just what I wanted to say.
Can I jump in? I mean, really voting for the extension. Everything else is by right.
Yeah, this is a comprehensive vote, though. I don't see this as just the extension. I think there's, in my opinion, I think it's the entire project. As you just said, you'd have to revisit it if the extension wasn't passed. So I'd like to have all the details of the entire project good to go in order for me to vote or to approve.
Okay.
All right, we'll move to questions. Any other commissioner questions? And then we'll move to questions from the public. Okay, I'm not seeing any other commissioner questions. Ms. Martha Barksdale says, why is the entrance on H Street? Which I think is a question from a lot of the neighbors.
2 reasons. One, the way that it was working out with the layout. Just to get the floor plans working. Let me just go to the floor plans. It worked better to have the entrance over here rather than having it over here, just because of the way that the floor plans were laying out with the bedrooms and the sizes. And then also, since we're having 2 parking spaces, we did want the parking spaces closer to the entrance rather than having to walk all the way around to get to that front door. I mean, those are probably the 2 main reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I will just kind of point out that across the alley, I would say maybe 20 feet from that entrance, are the dumpsters for the building across that alley. Yeah, so I think that might be a little bit of an unpleasant thing to consider for those folks walking in their front door. It's not always quite the neatest. So Rogers says, what is the address of this building?
They'll have to get a new address, and it would be on H Street. So I don't know what it would be, but they will have to file for a new one.
Okay, so you do plan to actually file for a new address?
Yeah, because our front door now is on H Street and no longer on 20th Street. So wherever the front door is facing, that's the street. That address has to be on that street.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And then Rogers, I do see your hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. So if you have an additional question and you want to share that now, if not, just let me know if we just answered your question. You can unmute yourself at any time and go ahead and share with us. And I believe I just knocked off your mute. So if you'll go ahead and unmute. Yep, there you have it.
Yeah. I missed the cross street, so I really don't know where it is. Is it 20th and H or 21st and H or?
20th and H.
20th and H. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kevin Horgan, who says, can you clarify if these are family-sized units? How many bedrooms per unit?
Yes. So the unit A, which is the basement and the first floor, it has 4 units with 4 bedrooms in the basement. It also has how many baths? 2 baths or 2.5 actually. It actually has 3. This is the primary bedroom and it has 3 other bedrooms. This one having also an ensuite, and these 2 would be sharing this one, which is also would be the powder room for the people coming from the first floor. Unit B We divided the bedrooms. Two of them are on the first floor with their own bathroom. And then on the second floor, where you have the main entrance, unit B, we have the other 2 bedrooms with a powder room and also the primary bedroom over here. Now, as we all know, after the pandemic, a lot of people working from home. So we did want to get these 4 bedrooms, thinking that one could possibly be used as an office as well. And the top unit would be just 2 bedrooms. The owners, they want to try to live here in this top unit if they can make it work as far as construction costs and everything. That's their end goal. But if not, it is a 2-unit apartment up here.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So that's all I do see one more question. Julian Hill, will the rest be rental space? If so, are there any projections yet in terms of rental rates as compared to the rest of the neighborhood?
So yeah, I believe the owner's plan is to keep all 3 units and rent the lower 2 and live on unit C on the top floor. As far as what they're thinking on rent, I'm not sure what their plan is on that. Especially if this, hopefully we'll have a permit, probably sometime in May, maybe June. It's going to take about a year to build. So I don't know how crazy it is now with inflation and everything going on, what the market rent will be.
Okay. All right. And then we've got another question from Ms. Barksdale. This will have to be our last question. Is it my understanding that if I lived in 803 20th, you could raise my chimney without my permission? And so I'll take that question just because there is quite a lot of discussion about that. And the answer is pretty strongly no, because you would have to access that neighboring property in order to raise their portion of the chimney. And so the neighbor would have to give their permission for access to their property. There are some ways where there have been disputes over that in the past, but it pretty well works out, in the majority of those cases that the answer is no, just for the simple matter of property access. So I thank you for that question. That's a good question. I'm sorry, Sadil,
I didn't want you to cut off or stop the question. I'm looking at this picture that's right on the screen now, and I see that the building parking is elevated, right? It's like elevated off the street, and then the neighbors is down lower, but I don't see any access for the neighbor, the current home that's already there, to be able to get out their back, because it looks like they're down in the ground from the elevation of where this car is. Is that a real-time photo of how the property is going to look?
So the neighbor's grade is not really represented well here. The backyard here for all the properties right now kind of slopes down like this. So, and the alley is going to stay where the alley is. We're not going to touch that. So really this grade would stay as is. We're not going to be touching that. So really the grass, this should be showing that the grass is sloping up to the alley.
Gotcha.
And she has steps. She has steps down off the alley. Okay. All right. So anything else from any commissioners that I missed earlier? Okay. And then I'll just kind of go over some of my reasoning and thinking and conversation with the next door neighbor, Ms. Hill, who I actually know quite well. I have known her for several years. Just in having conversations with her, I do know that she is opposed to the extension, and that she does have concerns in regards to the chimney. And I think even in this view, I'm still seeing the chimney here in the wrong place. That chimney should be attached to the building in gray here that we're looking at, and not behind this tree. There's no shared chimney there. But the shared chimney issue is a separate issue to deal with via DCRA rather than zoning. And so she'll deal with that as a separate matter, and that's her wish to do it that way. In some cases, we do kind of join those negotiations together, because the neighbor will say, well, I might be willing to support the BZA case, if we can do something in regards to my chimney, but it's not her wish in this case, to negotiate in that way. And so she is in opposition to the extension. And I think just overall for the neighborhood, and we discussed this last time, to give some background, we recently changed the zoning in our neighborhood to offer some additional protections so that neighbors can, go up a story if they choose to, but that we're not encouraging shading neighbors out of the enjoyment of their adjacent properties. And, just to kind of explain how those setbacks work for people who might not be aware, is that they work based on precedent. So that, let's say, for instance, in this case, you're able to go back 10 feet because there is already an extension on the back of Ms. Hill's home. And so you can measure from that point. And then let's say there was another property, then they would be able to go back an additional 10 feet and it would go back and back and back. So you start out with a 10-foot extension that turns into a 20-foot potential extension for the neighboring property. And then for the neighboring property on the other side of that, because of the 20-foot extension, turns into a potential 30-foot extension. And so, for those reasons, and just kind of being consistent in how the rules are applied on those blocks, I do think it is important, especially with the fact that the zoning changes being so fresh, which means they were, thought out for exactly the environment in which we're currently operating. That I am, not in favor of the extension based on that feedback from the neighbor, as well as potential future impacts based on our recent zoning changes. So I would move to reject, this potential change. If I can get a second from one of the commissioners. Second from Commissioner Blacknell. And just to be clear, all in favor of rejecting the extension. So all those who oppose the extension, you could say aye.
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 All right, any opposed to accepting the extension, just so we're clear, please say nay. And any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, and then just a reminder, Commissioner Cobb abstains regularly from these cases due to a work obligation. So thank you for that presentation, Mr. Teran. The ayes do have it. So you will receive a letter in the case file before your upcoming BZA hearing in regards to this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so continuing with voting actions on our agenda, we do have a public land sale request for 1961 H Street Northeast. Some of you who might be very familiar with the neighborhood might know that 1961 H Street Northeast does not technically exist. It is a vacant lot currently. Mm-hmm. And there is a request because that vacant lot is next door to property owned by the DC government, that a portion of the land, which is owned by the Housing Authority, be sold to the developer at 1961 so that they can meet some of the minimum requirements in order to be able to build on that lot. I don't see Ms. Robbie on the line, who is the developer and owner for that property. If you are on the line and you could raise your hand, please use the raise hand feature so that we can find you. But I don't see you here as a panelist. With that said, it is budget season and we do need to take a vote on this item at this meeting. Ms. Robbie was invited, or actually requested an invitation to come, and has done so for the past several months, but has not attended, for a variety of reasons. Okay, I don't see Ms. Robbie on the line. I will say, in my opinion, I am not in support of a public land sale of public housing property to a private developer for a variety of reasons. One being that there's a current investigation going on for these types of land scale sales in regards to some illegal activities by housing authority, previous director, and not making appropriate deals. And since this has been ongoing during his tenure, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate to move forward until that investigation is complete, for legal reasons. And in addition, I don't see how it benefits either public housing or the neighborhood to do that. Public housing is currently undergoing a review of their property at Langston Terrace to potentially make improvements for those residents. And why we would suggest that they should make a sale before they even finish conducting the land review, in addition to the legal review that's going on, doesn't seem to be in the best interest of those residents. And there are greater uses of that land, including, potentially being able to add additional affordable housing to that property, or making an opening in that alley, which is currently a dead end, so that residents can use their alley for garbage disposal rather than the front of their properties, which is leading to some issues with rats on the street. And so I think for those reasons, as well as the fact that it's likely to lead to a BZA case that would fail anyway, which has been the case at that lot over the past 2-3 decades. At this point, it's kind of much ado about something that's likely not to work out anyway. So for those reasons, I move not to support that land sale for development of 1961 8th Street Northeast, and we can forward our concerns to the Housing Authority regarding that. Can I get a second?
I second. And Langston is they still renovating. They're still under renovation.
Right.
And the same thing. So I'm the ANC commissioner for Langston, and so Commissioner Moore, so that Moore, I second it.
Thank you. All in favor of not, just so we're clear, all in favor of not approving this land sale, can I get an aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain. All right. So the ayes have it. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll
Thank you.
move forward to our next voting action, which we do. I do see Mr. Webster on the line for a sports betting license for Union Oyster Bar. And it's my understanding that you have already completed the application at this point. So if you'll refresh our memories and let us know where things stand.
Yes. So my name is Michael Bing. I'm standing in for Russell Webster. We've completed all the documentation necessary with lottery to be a Class C. And if you were on earlier and you heard Director Alvarez, he basically went into what a Class C is, which is in essence a version of just a lottery retailer, in the sense where there's limits on how much money can actually be paid out, as well as how much can actually how many wagers can actually be made. We have a security plan. Union District Oyster Bar for a long time. We don't have any complaints. If anyone were to express any kind of complaints, we've addressed those. I don't even believe there have been any. I think maybe one person complained about music because somebody left one of the upstairs doors open. But we've since made assurances that that won't happen again. We're not going to change the way that we operate our business as far as being a restaurant lounge. We're just going to have the accessibility for sports betting downstairs and upstairs, but primarily for downstairs use where, it's more or less a sports bar.
Okay, so thank you for that. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Rhodes, I know this is in your area, so I will, go ahead and allow you to speak first.
I'm comfortable. I'm
Okay.
good.
All right. Any questions or comments from any of the other commissioners? Okay. Let's move to questions from the public. If you're a member of the public and you have a question, you can type that in the Q&A box. If you would like to raise your hand and you're on the phone, you can dial *9, or if you are on the actual Zoom line, and you can raise your hand by clicking the raise hand button either at the top or bottom of the screen. Okay, and we'll give folks just a moment to do that. While folks are doing that, if you could just give us a reminder of the number of actual machines you plan to have.
Two machines. We're going to have one downstairs where the hostess would have been or was, and we're going to have one upstairs. As soon as you walk through the upstairs, there'll be a machine off to the left. When we've sent the security measures that the lottery specifies, we've met and adhered to, and we'll adhere to all those. Hopefully, all of you will come out and support. I know many of you have already come out and support. I mean, we have an incredible Sunday brunch.
Well, let's skip the ad, maybe, and get to the rest of the application details.
Since I have you on the phone, why not?
I mean, it was worth a try, but I have to respect the public interest. So you're doing the 2 machines, which I believe is a change over the last time we spoke, down from 5.
Yeah, we don't want to jump the gun. We don't even know if it's going to be a successful operation. Quite frankly, we may get 2 machines and find out that it's just not, there's no revenue for it in the space. I mean, if you think about what Peter said, yes, it's starting to make money now, but up until now, the preference has been going to the Capital One Arena and utilizing theirs, or going to Virginia, Maryland, and using FanDuel or DraftKings. So we're hoping that we can find an additional revenue stream through this, but it may just not work out.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And then I know, Commissioner Rhodes, you didn't want to make any comments, but I'll just share some of the background discussions that the commissioners had in terms of, security concerns. Basically, we know Union Market area, our office is there. And we had discussed some robbery concerns because, even our offices have been burglarized as well. Very recently, actually. And I know the owner, Mr. Webster, did discuss, that he's seen that activity as well and been a victim. And so we wanted you to kind of walk us through the security portion of the application in a little bit more detail as to what you're doing to, not kind of overburden MPD resources and make sure that the patrons are safe.
So we currently have, when we have events, we currently have police officers that are off duty. We always have off-duty officers there. All of our security are trained and hold certifications. We have a security log, that should the ANC ever want to see, they can see it, upon request. We check people's temperature during the COVID times, and we're actually still doing that. When people come in, we will begin to have somebody, not pat down, but scan them down with the paddle before entering. It is the neighborhood that it is. It's transitioning like a lot of neighborhoods in DC. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But you know, we've been an establishment in the community. You know, we're not here, you know, for a liquor license. You know, we've held it for some time, and I think that we've done the right thing, you know, for the community. And you know, we're just looking to add a potential additional revenue stream. I don't see how it can bring a CD factor, because, you know, we're hoping that people are going to come in and sit and eat, you know, and have a drink, not just come in to place a bet like Capital One Arena, which is kind of geared towards that because they have a booth, you know, a window. You know, ours, you know, the class C retailers are we don't have windows like that, and we're not giving $10,000 or $20,000 away as soon as you win, because quite frankly, we don't hold that type of cash.
But your max is 600. It's not that it's cash free. It's just that the max is lower.
Yeah, this isn't a you know, we're not able to we're not MGM. You know, we're a local company, a local retailer or restaurateur looking for an additional revenue stream.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think the thing that we're getting at there is that you know, it's our job to kind of point out any areas for the actual body who issues the licenses as to what community concerns might be there. And so we wanted you to be able to have an opportunity to share with the public, okay, this is what we recognize this concern, and this is what we plan to do in regards to that. And I know previously we had some discussion that kind of, I think, led a lot of the people in the public, definitely just by reading some of the blogs and public comments, to believe that there was no cash involved whatsoever. And so we wanted to make sure that that was clear with you guys, and that there is a cash involved, but that there's a limit, and that you guys are taking security precautions.
Yeah, absolutely taking security precautions. And to the extent like every Class C is also obligated to have a lottery machine on premise as well. So, you know, individuals can also go in there for lotteries. So if they win off of a scratcher, they can also cash that out to those, you know, applicable limits as well. So it's hard to look at it like it's just a, you know, a lottery machine, but to a degree it is a lottery machine, because the lottery manages all the risk as well as, you know, provide the machines. And it's our, you know, it's our, you know, obligation to ensure that we're safe, our patrons are safe, and the community safe. So I think that we sent a security plan that was pretty tight, and where, you know, we want to have pulse checks. You know, we'd love to hear that, you know, you guys are doing great. You know, if you like, we can, hopefully we get approved. You know, there's a yes. And, you know, in a few months from here, as Peter mentioned, you know, there's that 6 months where they do that pulse check. And we would hope that we're still doing good by the community.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for that. And just to be clear with the public, we don't give the yes or the no. We raise the community concerns, and then Peter and his team at the actual agency, you know, say yes or no. But it's our job to review the application, and then we give feedback in regards to specific community issues, because we are advisory community group, as the name suggests. Okay, so with that said, Commissioner Rhodes, I don't see any additional questions from the public or comments in the Q&A. I don't see any raised hands. So if you would like to make a motion, we can go ahead and move forward.
I make a motion that Union Oyster Bar and Lounge have sports betting. Have the community's approval. Have the community support of the sports betting machines in the establishment.
All right, sounds good. So can Commissioner Rhodes get a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I believe I heard Commissioner Elmore first. For the second, all in favor? Can I get an
Aye.
aye? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Bingham.
Thank you.
All right, and then we'll move up to the next item on our voting actions, which will be the NOMA bid, supporting the new NOMA Metro entrance, and in our case, requesting support for an infill station. I don't believe we have anyone from the NOMA bid here this evening. If I'm incorrect, and we do have someone on the line, if you'll use the raise hand feature to raise your hand, we can go ahead and elevate you to a panelist, but I don't see anyone on the call from NOMA's Business Improvement District here this evening. So I will just give a reminder to the public that if you have a question, you can type that in the Q&A, or you can use the raise hand feature. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9. So first we'll open the floor to commissioner questions and comments for discussion on this item. Any commissioner questions or comments?
Sure. If I could just briefly discuss the letter since I'm the one who drafted it.
Definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for those who might not have been here, was it last month? It feels like it was longer, but yeah. The NOMA bid is pushing the council to provide funding to build a metro station, or a second entrance for the NOMA metro station on the east side of the tracks, sort of near where the Trader Joe's is, on the other side of Florida Avenue, on the other side of that underpass. And so what they're asking for is $50 million over 2 fiscal years to do that. It was originally in the DC budget before. That money had already been allotted, but then COVID hit, and so the money was reprogrammed to, fight the pandemic. So it never materialized. So the NOMA bid is trying again. So basically, this letter is just voicing support for another metro entrance. It'll save people time. It'll save people from having to walk under the underpasses, and it will also act as a cut through under the tracks. So you can go through there even if you're not getting on the metro. And overall, I think it would just be, it's on balance a small change, but I think it would, in total, when you combine how much time it saves everyone who uses it, especially for people in 5D, I think that makes a big difference. And on top of that, we hope that the NOMA bid would also support any efforts that we have in the future to get an infill metro rail station here in ANC 5D. I know that WMATA has recently tossed around some plans for, I don't know if it's a 10-year outlook or 20-year outlook, but I think all the plans include a metro station or at least one of them includes a metro station in 5D. So we're hoping with this letter to also lay the groundwork for that and make it clear that that is something we want in the future. So those are the two things that this letter does.
Yeah, and I know we had some discussion with the NOMA bid about, I guess kind of let's hold hands and jump together support for some metro upgrades overall with this additional entrance, as well as an infill station for Benning Road. And I don't know who might have a progress report or update in regards to their response, but I believe there was some commissioner discussion regarding that as well.
Well, they are supposed to be speaking with the powers that be or a supervisor to get a support letter for the Oklahoma and Benning Road station. And they just let me know that yesterday. So we want support all the way around. Actually, a lot of areas in DC needs stations and entrances, and we want them to be clean, safe, and inaccessible. So I think is a good, I think we need to have a deeper conversation.
Okay, so any additional comments or questions from commissioners?
My comments on this letter of support is that in the name of racial equity, I don't believe it really does much for 5D. As we mentioned previously in this conversation, we did ask for a letter of support for something more for the Black and Brown communities in 5D, and we pretty much didn't get that. Whether it's an ongoing conversation on their end, it didn't seem like there was much real and honest interest to support such a project while they're asking from us. This is an additional entrance where some already exists. In the Black and Brown communities, we need more metro access, and this doesn't help. This doesn't help at all. It helps the more affluent neighborhoods in 5D, such as Union Market, but it doesn't help the neighborhoods that need it the most right now. And at a time when we need funding on smaller projects and we keep on getting denied, no, we don't have the money, no, it's not in the budget, no, we don't have it. I don't think it's a smart move to support a project which was originally tasked for 23 million, I believe, and then somehow it doubled up to 50 million without real details or real planning. So I cannot support such a project if there's not really any real dialogue or conversation and just really just wanting the support and nothing else.
Yeah. Commissioner Hoffman, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think Commissioner Guzman did bring up some excellent points. And I think those are all 100% correct. What I also think is the difference between a non-localized bid supporting a project outside of their zone with zero prospects of that coming to fruition based on loose comments from WMATA is understandable, in my opinion, as working with bids in the past. I don't think it closes the door to it, but the difference in scale of a project between this and opening a station, a full new station, is about 200 million difference. So there's a much sizable difference between the two asks. And it's not something that the NOMA bid can just say they're going to, if they support it, it'll happen. It'll take the NOMA bid and 8th Street, Great Streets, and whatever developments happening in the Starburst Plaza to make that happen, and all kinds of other things as well. But to deny the impact of transit resources, no matter where they come from and how they exist, we find that, you know, the infrastructure is important and it can have an intended use, and then it can have the real world use that actually ends up happening. So I fully think that building more transit infrastructure is always a good idea.
Okay. All right. And so I'll just kind of sum up and give, my,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go
ahead. Go ahead.
If I just might point out one more thing, as Ms. Cislo said, Councilmember McDuffie did release his budget requests, and among them, based on the surveys of people in Ward 5, he's asking the council to dedicate 50 million, the funding for this entrance. So it does have the support of
Ward 5. I couldn't hear part of what you just said.
Councilmember McDuffie is going to ask the council for this funding. So it has the support of at least people in Ward 5, if not necessarily 5D. We just don't know that much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And I was just going to kind of sum up the conversation among commissioners and then move to the public questions. One thing I will add is that, you know, there is a possibility to, in my opinion, come to a compromise between the two positions that I'm hearing, which is that we can issue stipulated support, and that provides them with additional time to offer support, you know, as they work that through their board process. And then if they, you know, want a letter from us, they know what steps they need to take in order to get their hands on that letter. And then it's not necessarily an issue that we have to continue to revisit, but we've come to a conclusion. You know, we've issued that, and we've made it clear that our overall position is that, you know, yeah, we're not completely cutting, you know, off this idea, but we do want to see that kind of mutual respect for the communities at both ends of ANC 5D. And then it puts the ball in their court to say, okay, are they as committed, to moving this forward? And I think it does get the ball rolling on sort of that infill station process being taken a lot more seriously, to see some of the bids and Great Streets and DSLBD and other groups start to put their support behind that. I think in a lot of situations like this, the first step happens somewhere. And so to kind of create a domino effect, you got to kick over that first domino. So I think it might be worthwhile to sort of press the issue there and potentially offer conditional support if that's something the other commissioners are willing to consider as a decision that we could all agree to. So I'll move to questions and comments from the public. Josh Kramer says, hi, in case it doesn't come up, where would an infill metro station go and what line would it be part of? So this is a bit of interesting DC history that I can answer for you. It would be blue, orange, and silver. So basically Benning Road at Oklahoma Avenue, that area where the parking lots are, where you see already an above ground metro headed toward Minnesota Avenue. And that was actually one of the few, or I believe maybe the only metro stations that was included in the original plan that got booted out of the plan due to community feedback. A lot of people, the rumor is that it was Georgetown, but that's actually not the case. It was actually that Benning Road, Oklahoma Avenue metro station. But there have been a lot of infrastructure changes in the interim since that original metro plan went out. And so it has become a much needed addition. And it's an oversight that I think, we could correct much more cheaply than an infill underground station. So that answers that. John Healy, I agree with Commissioner Guzman. The NOMA Metro only has one line, the red line. It's not Metro Center, so it doesn't need 3 entrances while people living up Bladensburg Road are so underserved. And so that is the last comment or question I see in the Q&A box. Let me take a look at raised hands, and I don't see any. So Commissioner Cobb, I'll give the floor to you, and you can make whatever motion to move things forward that you would like. And just a reminder for folks, because I think we're going to get into some parliamentary procedure here, it's looking like potentially. So, you give the yay or nay on the question that is asked. And then if you want to ask a different question subsequently to put that to a vote, you can do so. Commissioner Blackman, I think you've got your hand raised to kind of preempt the motion.
I wanted to ask a question before you got to the public.
Go
and everything.
for it.
Okay. Well, it's not a question, it's a comment. If Councilmember McDuffie's office going to agree with this, why do we have to give a letter of support? If he's going to put this out there, and if they're going to agree to it, just like I said, why do we need to give a letter of support? And I agree with Commissioner, what's that, Gomez, if I pronounce your name?
You can say Salvador, Commissioner. You can say Salvador.
Okay, I just try to be respectful.
I appreciate you.
Commissioner Salvador, even there are other areas that need extra, accesses to Metro and everything. And it seems like, I hate to say it, they always treat us bad, no matter what it is. We always get treated badly. I hate to say this, I'm not a prejudiced agency commissioner or anything like that, but it is what it is. As much as we fight for stuff, as much as 5D fight, we still get the bad end of it.
Yeah. So I'll just answer the one question that was in there, which is that even if it is supported by one particular council member, it still goes to a vote from the full council, and they can consider feedback from our ANC, from the public, from whatever entities want to submit testimony in regards to their thinking. And I just, just much like our own commission works, where it's like one of us might support it, but another one might want to see some additional changes before offering support or not support it. I did see a few more questions come in. In the meantime, I'll just quickly go through those. Anna Roebland, I agree with Mr. Guzman fully as well. Kevin Horgan, I think we need to support more Metro, period. We should also fight for a new station near Oklahoma Benning. If we oppose the proposed new entrance, how can we expect support from other ANCs when we ask for a new station at Oklahoma Benning? And I think really we'll see what questions come up. But I think one of the questions before us is a teach people how to treat you kind of question, whether it's like, do we want to offer the support? And if so, how do we want to offer it? We can't always be a cheap date. So, let's pop some champagne instead of beer sometimes,
Potentially, if we do get the letter, can we revisit it next month?
Well, I think that's the question that's here before us, because I think what I was saying earlier is that if we want to come to a compromise position, it might be that we just say, yeah, we're willing to support this if we can go ahead and get the support in return from you all. Because it doesn't seem like they're saying no, it seems like they're saying we need some additional time for it to go through whatever their internal processes are.
Well, we'll give them all the time they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not in so much of a hurry as they are, so that asymmetry works to our benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to you, Commissioner Cobb, so we can wrap this up.
Great. I think that there are two considerations in mind. One is that the mayor does release her proposed budget next week, and then the budget process starts. So we don't have a ton of time, but I think if we can amend the letter to make our support conditional on their support, then we'll submit if we approve it, we submit the letter, then the ball is in their court. And so we don't have to wait any longer. We just have to see if they actually do what they say they will.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to make a motion after that comment, kind of wrap this up.
So then I move that we amend the letter to make our support conditional on their support for a metro station in 5D.
Okay. All right, Commissioner LaToya Moore, second before I even asked for the second. All in favor, can I get an aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have that unanimously. Thank you so much, everyone. Next up, we'll move to community feedback and questions. And just a reminder to folks, this is your time to shine. Whatever topics are on your mind, even if they were not necessarily agenda items for this evening, this is your opportunity to raise new issues, to follow up on previous issues, and to have an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have of your commissioners or the commission overall. So you can submit a question in the Q&A box, or you can add a question to the mix by raising your hand. And you can do that either by pressing the raise hand feature if you've logged into Zoom, or dialing *9 if you are on the phone. So let's go to, I see some questions popping up in the Q&A box. Anna Roebland, I believe you're still typing. And so I do see you here as a person raising your hand. So we'll go ahead and give you the opportunity to unmute yourself. Okay. You're on the phone with us. Welcome. If you'll unmute so we can hear you. And you can leave video on or off, it's your choice.
Thank you so much. I had put something in the chat earlier about the Zoom settings. Like the way it's set up right now, I can only see one person at a time. And there's no way to change that. And I also can't see who's in the meeting or how many people are in the meeting. It's suddenly changed. So right now I can when you unmute, when you put me on panelist. But I think we're hoping that you would consider going back to having it always so that you can see everyone at the same time. I think there's a couple really important reasons. One is for the people that are hearing impaired. Because you're showing only who's talking, you can't show the interpreter at the same time. So how are they ever gonna, be able to really get what's happening? Also, I can't see who says what. So lots of times a commissioner will say something and I'll be like, who said that? And I have no idea who it was. And also I would really like to, unless it's a privacy issue, to know how many people are on and who's on.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. On my end, and this might be just kind of a difference in personal settings, I show that the meeting as the host is set to gallery view. So people should be able to see that sort of Brady Bunch picture view as available to them, unless someone is sharing their screen. So it might be a kind of a change to the personal settings for your particular device. So that might help to resolve that issue, because I did just double check while you were talking, and it does have the view set to gallery. So that should be that Brady Bunch view. So I would say maybe take a look at Zoom's website to see what adjustments can be made on that particular device. But I appreciate that feedback, definitely.
Thank you. Sorry about the waste of time.
No, that's
no,
okay. It's good to know.
Commissioner, maybe while we like when we're waiting for those first few minutes for people to trickle in, we just do some little testing moving forward so we can make sure that everyone gets what they want to see out of our meetings.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think it had to be something technical, because I had to drop off because the presentation was just a little square. So was everybody getting that, or was it just me?
No, I was getting the big, and you can switch the view, so it'll show either. I think it's one of those. It's kind of different for everyone, and it also depends on the device that you're on. Yeah, because you could be on the phone, you could be on a iPad, a laptop. So, but I appreciate that feedback. It's helpful to know what kind of people are thinking. John Healy says, can we get an update on the Bladensburg Road traffic safety study? It was supposed to be started last year. Then we were promised it would go live, its own website, in February. Then that was moved to March. Any idea why this is being delayed? Or can we get an update from DDOT at a future meeting? I'll take the tail end of that question on DDOT at a future meeting. And then let's have Commissioner Cobb, who is the head of our transportation committee, take the rest of that question. But DDOT is actually scheduled tentatively right now to be here next month. So that'll be a great question for the director at that time if this is still not live. So Commissioner Cobb, if you want to take the rest of that question.
Thanks. So John is absolutely right that DDOT did promise that the website would go live in February. I reached out to the project manager in DDOT about this, and she emailed me on Thursday. She said that they've had some delays because they're working on a mapping tool that will allow people to drop a pin or highlight an area and indicate what the issue is there and what room there is for improvement. But she did promise me, and this is a direct quote, the website will definitely be live this month. So fingers crossed. I'm staying on top of it, and I'll let people know as soon as I hear something, or as soon as the website goes live.
Okay, great. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And certainly I know some of you follow Commissioner Cobb on social media, so that'll be there. And as well as if you subscribe to our newsletter, we'll make sure to include it in our ANC 5D newsletter. If you don't subscribe, you can by visiting us at anc5d.org. Okay, and I don't see any additional questions in the Q&A or any raised hands. So let's move forward in our agenda to commissioner reports, after which we will adjourn. So 5D01, Commissioner Rhodes, do you have any updates for us?
Just a couple of updates. We had a couple of fires in February. One family was displaced. To my understanding, they are okay and they have a new place now. DC Housing Authority has put up no loitering signs at Lewisboro Park. There's some controversy at the park there because they are still loitering, and we're communicating with that. I did talk to Jacqueline Garrett today with DPW, and we're going to work on getting some cameras for the illegal dumping, especially on Gallaudet Street and Corcoran. For the somehow we're going to find some cameras to get that. But also the leaf collection just started, so that's the reason why we're not getting a lot of the trash picked up in the area. So she's going to work on it. Please call 311 if you have trash, if you see abandoned cars, if you have a rodent issue, anything, just please put in a 311 request. That's how we can keep the records. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rhodes. 5D02 was Commissioner Hoffman, but unfortunately he had to leave us a bit early for a work obligation.
5D02 is me, Commissioner.
Oh, sorry.
You good? You good?
I skipped your number.
Trinidad's
Go right
Trinidad.
ahead.
Just a quick update. We're working on getting the environmental crimes unit from MPD to see if they can install cameras in the alley of behind Montello Avenue. I know that's been a big illegal dumping site, and speaking with Commander Fitzgerald, just reached through some of the resources that I found out through DOEE, seeing if we can get those cameras installed there. We're still getting some speed hump requests. We just got one from Holbrook Terrace near West Virginia. Still waiting for some follow-up for the ones that we request on 11th Place Northeast. We do have an event scheduled, a cleanup event scheduled with the Mayor's Office, Clean Cities, and Mayor's Office of Women's Policy and Initiatives, scheduled for the 12th, which is this Saturday. We might be postponing that. We'll be confirming that on Thursday because out of all the days this week, Saturday, they're expecting 90% chance of rain and snow for some reason. So we're going to have to probably postpone the event and come back to it at a later date. We were expecting to have the mayor's office bring in a giant dumpster for people to bring in their bulk trash to dump in there. So it's obviously open to everyone in 5D. Not just the folks in Trinidad, because it was going to be located at the Trinidad Rec Center. But other than that, just a friendly reminder for any illegal dumping or trash issues, feel free to send me an email, even if I'm not your commissioner. I'm working closely with some of the agencies and offices to really tackle some of these issues that we're having constant repeat offender in locations. So feel free to just send me anything that you need to be addressed. I'm working on it, and it's going to be a big fight, but it's worth it just to get better streets in our neighborhoods. So other than that, I'm always available via email, via phone. If anything else is needed, you know how to reach me.
All right, thank you so much for that. 5D03.
Hello. I've met with, as Commissioner Rose said, I met with Ms. Jacqueline Garrett Brooks as well about several issues with DPW and my SMD. And I did make her contact information eligible for the rest of the commissioners because we've had ongoing issues for DPW in our area. I have been frantically working with Department of Parks and Recreation and DCRA. For those who are on the call about the lot on 19th and L Street Northeast, trying to just get land ownership and property line ownership. It has been an uphill battle, but I promise I promise you, I am working tooth and nail to get this addressed so that we can figure out if we're going to change this to a park, a local park, because we do not have one in our SMD in the Carver Langston neighborhood. It could be even transitioned into a half dog park, a half public park, or just open space, an open green space for us to do whatever we like. But the hard part is finding who's the owner, and it's been an uphill battle. And I'm still waiting on feedback, but I will continue to keep pushing. And we're going to get something resolved in the next 30 days. I promise something. If not exactly what we need, we're going to get something pushed in the next 30 days. I promise.
Okay, thank you for that. 5D04.
5D04, I still have 2 speed hump issues that are still going on. I did some research. They closed them out. They still haven't put the speed humps down, but the speed hump signs are up and everything. So I got one of the government officials to take a look into it, which I have to follow up because they put in new tickets. I don't know how it got closed out, but it got closed out. Commissioner Cobb, a couple of months ago, I sent in a request that a resident had made for speed humps on M Street. Did you get that? It was a traffic study done.
I'm not sure. Can you forward me that when we're done here?
Yes.
Okay.
I would. It was by Mr. Jordan. He lived on M Street.
And can you include me in that email? CC me. I know who. I am very familiar with Mr. Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I would. Yeah. I would. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that update.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm the commissioner for 5D05. And just briefly, we will start having community cleanups for this season. Now that the weather's starting to warm up, our Earth Day cleanup will be April 23rd, 2022, and registration for volunteers begins on March 15th. So if you'd like to sign up, we'll have locations throughout ANC 5D and Carver Langston and Trinidad and Ivy City. And so please visit the Anacostia Watershed website at anacostiaws.org to register. They provide all of the supplies, and a lot of times you get gifts too. So everyone who participates gets some kind of goodies. Sometimes it's a free lunch coupon to one of our local restaurants. Definitely always a really nice t-shirt. Sometimes it's a water bottle and a t-shirt, so you just never know. But all of the supplies are provided for you. You just have to show up with a good attitude, and there'll be coffee and donuts waiting, as well as supplies to help clean up the neighborhood. I know that we have over the years had some homeless encampment issues, especially in that 17th Street Benning Road area. You know, those issues have really been kind of ongoing. You know, we haven't been able to provide much in the way of updates just for, you know, personal medical concerns related to the individual and individuals who have lived there at various times. And we're just not able to share a lot of that publicly. But I will just say that, you know, efforts are being made in terms of progress at this point to help, you know, the individual who's currently living there find the housing and other health support that he needs to move to a safe location. Because as you know, there's construction work going on there, including electrical and water separately, not at the same time. But you know, there are very real safety concerns about anyone living at that site. And so I just wanted to say that, you know, that there is progress being made. H Place continues to have trash issues. We are working with the Department of Public Works as well as the landlords who are failing to provide trash service for their tenants, you know, so that they're having to just kind of dump their trash without even trash bins in the alley. And so DCRA came out this morning to do inspections and citations for those property owners, and will continue to issue fines that could potentially lead to them being included as a nuisance property, and additional steps being taken against those property owners if they continue to fail to provide trash service. And speed humps everywhere. So speed humps are going up on H Place, on 19th Street, on I Street. There will be additional traffic calming measures taken, including bulb outs on 19th Street, which will be, I think, a nice addition. We ask that they be landscaped. So that should help beautify the block and increase visibility at that 19th and I intersection to make it safer for pedestrians, especially since that's how most of us get to the grocery store, is by walking and having to cross at that intersection. So hopefully we'll see those repairs soon. They're scheduled for this year. So just wanted to give that update and just make it clear the only block there on 19th Street where those requests haven't been made is the 900 block, and that's just because it won't qualify because it is on a hill to have those speed humps installed. So 5D06, and I think I've got it right this time, is Commissioner Hoffman, and he had to step away from the meeting early due to a work obligation. So we'll move to 5D07, and if you'll go ahead and give us the final update.
Just two things. First, we finally got an illegal dumping camera installed in the alley between Penn Street and Queen Street. Hopefully that will help things. But I also know that DDOT recently, as of the beginning of this month, got a new order of illegal dumping cameras. So they might still have some available, just FYI. And second, this is in Commissioner Hoffman's district, but DDOT will be installing a four-way stop at the intersection of Montello and Morse Street. Currently, there's a stop sign at Morse, but not on Montello. I'm interested in it because we've always been told by DDOT that they can't put more stop signs on Montello or Trinidad because they're WMATA bus routes. Well, now we have a new stop sign going in. And so I'll see what sort of authority DDOT had to do this and see if we can leverage that for some additional traffic calming in our neighborhood.
Yeah, well, much appreciated. So with all of those reports in, I move to adjourn tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Moore seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you so much and good night, everyone. We'll see you on the second Tuesday next month.